All the way from bizarre mutants to incredibly deep moments to high-intensity action scenes, the original X-Men animated show had it all. But now, it's finally getting a revival by none other than Disney itself.
Computer, body slide by 1 to intercept Bishop.
With that said, here's a look at the latest update about its premiere. While there might not have been new news on the show for a really long time, fans can now rejoice in the fact that the show has not been scrapped and is being actively worked on. In fact, there has been a recent update about when the animated show is actually coming out, and it turns out that it's not that far off. The update was posted by none other than @XmenUpdate on Twitter, as they posted about how and when fans would be able to get their hands on it. Though, bear in mind that the release date hasn't been confirmed and could very well face some delays. Hopefully, they're for the best. Giving them more time to really polish it out is always a good idea. Supposedly, it's going to come out sometime in the fall of 2023. And it's honestly a surprise that Marvel hasn't just thrown it into post-production hell this time, considering that's what they're doing with most of their content.
Cover me. Not a great start.
Oh, mutant.
In a recent Twitter exchange, the release date for X-Men 97 has gotten a promising update. Not just that, but fans are going to be able to go on their favorite streaming platform, Disney+, and get their hands on it as soon as it's out. But, as I mentioned before, there could still be some changes in the show's release time. And it's safe not to get your hopes up too high, especially considering how Marvel Studios' animation is faring these days. That's one of the biggest reasons this comes off as a surprise. Why is that? Well, Marvel Studios as a whole are going through a bunch of different changes, and they're even pushing shows back, even going so far as to not put out as many films as they have in the past. Obviously, people are going through a superhero low and just want something new to watch. But what's worse is that Marvel Animation Studios isn't doing any better and is going through the same crisis right now. Along with that, there's barely any news about new animated shows coming out either. The biggest of the bunch has to be the second season of the show I personally absolutely loved. Of course, it's What If. But that's not all. There are reports that a large chunk of people working on the new Spider-Man show have been let go. It doesn't seem like that show is gonna come around anytime soon. But one thing is for sure, the X-Men show is happening, and fans of the mutants can rest assured. Even the voice actor of Wolverine confirmed that the show is going to happen, and there's nothing to be worried about. Understandably, there are a lot of hopes for the show. Even Beau DeMaio is all in on it. While details of the upcoming animated show itself aren't out yet, the author of the show having so much faith in it does make you hopeful. Not just that, but he's also producing the show this time. He's built up quite a name for himself in recent years, and with him behind a show or film, you can always be sure that it's going to be really good, if not the best out there. Heck, he even wrote The Witcher: Nightmare of the Wolf and the new Star Trek show. Along with that, he's gotten his hands on some live-action work at the MCU as well, which is great news. Why is that? Well, you can be sure that the X-Men are going to come in with a bang, and that almost nothing could go wrong. His presence is essential in Marvel's take on the show. This time, the show's going to be out on a platform that is bigger than ever before, so the writer for it has a lot of work to do, at least if they want to put out the best version of the show out there. You're going to be seeing the X-Men under Marvel for the first time ever, so it's a pretty big deal. It could even change how people feel about them in the MCU. On the other hand, who's in the cast? There's even more good news relating to the cast, at least if Marvel decides to stick to its word. But as far as its confirmation goes, almost the entire cast from the original X-Men animated show will be returning for X-Men 97. It turns out that some of them will be reprising their iconic roles. On the other hand, the rest will play completely new characters. Among them are actors such as Adrian Ho, Chris Potter, Christopher Britton, Leonard Zahn, George Buza, and Catherine Disher. Even Cal Dodd and Allison Seeley Smith are joining in.
If we don't get to them fast, there won't be any survivors.
A whirlwind shall help you effect a rescue.
But they can't only bring back the original cast now, especially since a bunch of new voice actors have been cast, such as Jeff Bennett, Jennifer Hale, AJ Locascio, and JP Karliak, also including Holly Shu, Ray Chase, Anna Ibushi, and even Matthew Watterson. Though there isn't any news about who this whole bunch of actors is going to be playing in the show. But you can be sure that almost all of the original show's characters will be there, and the new ones are going to be just as good. And I have to talk about the plot if I'm talking about the cast. While there isn't any news about what the reboot will be about, there have been some updates from Marvel that hint at a few things. The biggest of the bunch has to be the update that came straight from Marvel.com, saying that the show is going to feature something major that happens. Something that forces all of the X-Men to come back together and finally defeat.
No, I have a better way. Whirlwind from the heavens.
In fact, the head of streaming, television, and animation over at Marvel Studios even talked about the upcoming animated show, saying that it's the first time the studio is working on anything related to the X-Men, so it's a big deal for them. Not just that, but since they're going for the same style that the original animated show Jim Lee and Chris Claremont went with, you can for sure expect some high-quality adventures at the end of this year. But Marvel's involvement also opens up many narrative possibilities, especially since they have access to a lot of different characters. Though it's to be noted that there really isn't any news out there about whether the reboot will continue from the older show, or if it's just going to start all over again. But one thing's for sure, people have really high expectations from it, especially after how well What If did in just one season. So if they fail to deliver memorable stories and characters, it could be bad news for the mutants' future in the MCU. And finally, is there a trailer out for it yet? The animated show was first announced back in 2021 at the Disney Plus Day celebration, but even now they haven't put out a trailer for it. Fans have a lot of questions, and a trailer could help them get a better idea of what to expect from the show, and if it's meant to connect with the overall MCU at all. But the release window is coming closer with each breath, and I just hope that they don't mess up a show that fans love. And that's been a look at the new updates for X-Men '97.